The screaming started again at midnight. Throughout the imperial palace on Drakenhor, servants pressed their hands over their ears and tried to ignore the sound. It was not the roar of adult dragons that shook the walls. It was something worse, something that made even the oldest warriors feel uncomfortable. 3 baby dragons were dying and nobody knew how to stop it. Emperor Valdrus paced outside the hatching chamber with his wings folded tight against his massive scaled body. He had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. He had conquered star systems and crushed rebellions without mercy, but now he stood helpless while his children suffered behind sealed doors. The eggs had been miracles. His mate had laid them after 5 centuries of hoping and failing. When they finally cracked open 2 weeks ago, the entire empire celebrated. But the celebration ended quickly. High Keeper Soriel emerged from the chamber looking exhausted. His feathers were ruffled and one arm hung limp where a hatchling had bitten him. Again. "The situation has not improved, Your Majesty," Soriel said quietly. He was the best animal handler in the Empire. He had tamed wild beasts from 100 worlds. But these 3 babies had defeated him completely. "They still refuse food?" Valdrus asked, though he already knew the answer. "They bite anyone who approaches. They destroy everything in the chamber. The smallest one has not eaten in 3 days. Soriel lowered his head. "I do not think they will survive much longer, Your Majesty." Valdrus felt something cold settle in his chest. Fear. He had not felt it in centuries. His people, the Draconians, were the apex predators of the galaxy. They did not know fear, but watching his children fade was teaching him the emotion all over again. "Bring in someone else," he commanded. "There is no one else, Your Majesty. We have tried every expert in the Empire." Valdrus walked to the observation window and looked into the chamber. 3 small shapes huddled in the corner, hissing and snapping at shadows. Their scales, which should have been bright and healthy, looked dull. Their eyes were fierce but also confused, scared. They were so small, so fragile. Nothing like the mighty dragons of legend. "Perhaps they are simply defective," one of the advisors suggested carefully. "It happens sometimes with rare births. Nature corrects its mistakes." Valdrus turned on him so fast that the advisor stumbled backward. "You will never speak of my children that way again." The advisor bowed and retreated quickly. Dr. Oren, the palace physician, stepped forward. He was a tall insectoid being with multifaceted eyes that saw in spectrums beyond normal vision. "Your Majesty, I have analyzed their biology extensively. There is nothing physically wrong with them. Their aggression and refusal to eat appears to be behavioral, not medical." "Then fix their behavior," Valdrus snapped. "We have tried everything. Sedatives make them worse. Forced feeding causes them to vomit. Isolation makes them violent. They are unlike any hatchlings in our historical records." Ambassador Rena, a diplomatic aide who usually stayed quiet during these meetings, cleared her throat. "Your Majesty, if I may?" Valdrus looked at her. She was a small species, barely reaching his knee, but she had survived in the palace by being clever. "Speak. I was recently stationed near human territory." "Their world is remarkable in one way. They have successfully domesticated hundreds of species, including their own apex predators. They keep creatures in their homes that could easily kill them." "Humans?" Soriel scoffed. "Those primitive mammals? They have barely left their own star system. Primitive, yes, but they have a talent for working with difficult animals. I watched a human calm a Rendak beast with nothing but patience and soft words. The same beast had killed 3 trained handlers the week before." The room fell silent. Rendak beasts were notoriously vicious. "You are suggesting," Valdrus said slowly, "that I allow a human to care for my children?" "I am suggesting that we have tried everything else, Your Majesty. And the humans have something we do not. They evolved as weak creatures in a world full of predators. They survived by making friends with dangerous things." Dr. Oren shook his head. "This is absurd. Humans are barely above animals themselves. They have no advanced technology, no psionic abilities, no—" A crash came from the hatching chamber. Through the window they watched one of the babies thrash against the wall, crying out in distress. Valdrus made his decision. "Find me a human. Bring them here immediately. Your Majesty, this is—" Soriel began. "Now." The Emperor's voice left no room for argument. As the staff hurried to obey, Valdrus returned to the window. His children were huddled together now, the 2 larger ones trying to shelter the smallest. They were trying to protect each other, trying to be brave. They were so young, too young to understand why they hurt, Why they were scared, why nothing felt right. "Hold on," he whispered, pressing one clawed hand against the glass. "Help is coming. I hope." 3 days later, the palace received confirmation. A human had agreed to come. A nurse who worked at a medical station on the edge of human space. They were boarding a transport ship and would arrive within the week. The palace staff prepared reluctantly, many of them insulting the idea behind closed doors. Some placed bets on how quickly the human would fail or die, but Valdrus did not care about their opinions. He sat beside the hatching chamber every night, listening to his children cry, and counted the hours until the human arrived. He had conquered the galaxy with strength and fire. But strength and fire could not save his children. Maybe, just maybe, something else could. The transport ship landed in the middle of a rainstorm. Rachel stepped onto the palace platform and immediately felt small. Everything here was built for beings 3 times her size. The doors were massive. The ceilings disappeared into darkness above. Even the raindrops felt heavier than the ones back home. She pulled her medical bag close and walked toward the entrance where a group of palace staff waited. None of them looked happy to see her. "You are the human?" one of them asked. He was covered in feathers and had a beak that curved downward in what looked like a permanent frown. "Rachel." "Yes. I came as fast as I could. Highkeeper Soriel. I am in charge of all animals in the palace." He looked her up and down like she was something dirty he had found on his shoe. "I do not know why the Emperor summoned you, but I want it clear that I oppose this decision." Rachel had worked in emergency medicine for 8 years. She had dealt with hostile colleagues before. Noted, "Can I see the patients now?" "Patients?" Soriel laughed. It was not a kind sound. "They are not patients. They are dangerous predators who will likely kill you within minutes. Then we should not waste time talking." A massive creature stepped forward. He had scales that gleamed even in the rain and wore armor across his chest. "I am Guard Captain Theron. I will escort you to the hatching chamber. I am also authorized to remove you by force if you do anything suspicious." "Fair enough," Rachel said. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Other palace inhabitants stopped to stare at her. Some whispered. Others laughed. Rachel ignored them all. She had read everything she could find about Draconians during the 3-day journey here. She knew they considered humans inferior, weak, barely worthy of notice. She did not care what they thought. She was here for the babies. Dr. Oren joined them near the hatching chamber. His many eyes focused on Rachel from different angles. "I have prepared a full medical report for you, though I doubt you will understand most of it. Your species lacks the educational foundation for advanced biology." Rachel took the datapad he offered. "Thank you." She scanned through it quickly. The report was comprehensive but missed something obvious. She would deal with that later. They stopped outside a large door. Through a window beside it, Rachel could see into the chamber beyond. 3 baby dragons sat in the far corner. They were about the size of large dogs, with scales that should have shimmered but instead looked flat and lifeless. One of them was smaller than the others and was not moving much. "That is the critical one," Dr. Oren said. "It has not eaten in 5 days. Another day, maybe 2, and it will be too weak to recover." Rachel pressed her hand against the glass. All 3 babies had their eyes half closed. Their breathing was rapid and shallow. "Classic signs of severe stress. What have you tried so far?" she asked. Soriel began listing everything. Forced feeding, sedatives, temperature adjustments, pheromone therapy, isolation, group bonding exercises, different foods, different handlers, music, silence, everything. Rachel listened and felt her heart sink. They had tried many things, but they had tried them all wrong. "You have been treating them like dragons," she said quietly. "They are dragons," Soriel snapped. "They are babies." Rachel turned to face him. "Babies who are scared and hurt and do not understand what is happening to them. You have been trying to train them and fix them and force them to behave, but they do not need training. They need comfort." "Comfort?" Dr. Oren made a chittering sound that might have been laughter. "They are apex predators. They do not need comfort. Everything needs comfort when it is scared." Emperor Valdrus appeared so suddenly that everyone except Rachel flinched. He was enormous. His presence filled the entire corridor. His eyes glowed with an inner fire that had burned for millennia. Rachel looked up at him and did not bow. "Your Majesty, you are the human nurse?" His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Yes, sir. Can you save my children?" "I do not know, but I would like to try." Valdrus studied her for a long moment. Highkeeper Soriel is the most qualified animal expert in the Empire. Dr. Oren is a brilliant physician. Yet you think you can succeed where they have failed? With respect, Your Majesty, they are experts in animals and patients. I'm an expert in scared children. Something flickered in the Emperor's eyes. You see my children as children? I see 3 babies who miss their mother and do not understand why everything hurts. Yes, Your Majesty. The corridor was silent. Rachel realized she might have said too much, but she had never been good at staying quiet when patients needed help. What do you need? Valdrus asked one night, alone with them. No cameras, no observers, no interruptions. Just me and the babies. That is suicide, Soriel said flatly. They will tear you apart. Maybe, but every handler who has gone in there treated them like threats. I will treat them like what they are, and what is that? Dr. Oren asked. Scared kids who need someone to make them feel safe. Valdrus looked through the window at his children. The smallest one had laid its head down on the floor. It looked like it was giving up. You will have your night, the Emperor said. But if you fail, they die, and we will have nothing left to try. I understand. And if they kill you, that is not my responsibility. I understand that too. Theron moved forward. I will be stationed outside. If I hear you scream, I am coming in. No, Rachel said firmly. If you hear me scream and you come in, you will scare them more. Whatever happens in there, I handle it alone. She did not wait for them to argue. She walked to the door and placed her hand on the entry panel. It opened with a hiss. The smell hit her first. Blood, fear, and something else. Sadness. The room smelled like sadness. The 3 babies jerked their heads toward her. Their eyes narrowed. The largest one stepped in front of the other 2 protectively and bared tiny, sharp teeth. Rachel walked inside slowly. The door sealed behind her with a final sounding click. Through the window, the palace staff watched. Soriel shook his head. She will be dead in 5 minutes, but Valdrus said nothing. He simply watched as the small human walked toward his children with her hands open and empty. Rachel sat down on the floor about 10 feet away from the babies. She made herself as small as possible and turned her face slightly away. Then she started to hum. It was a song her mother used to sing when Rachel was young and could not sleep. A simple melody with no words. The baby dragons stared at her, confused, and Rachel waited. Rachel kept humming. Her legs began to ache from sitting in one position, but she did not move. The 3 baby dragons watched her from their corner with suspicious eyes. The largest one still stood guard over the others. Its little chest rose and fell rapidly with nervous breathing. She recognized the behavior. She had seen it 1,000 times in the pediatric unit back home. Children who had been poked and prodded by too many doctors. Children who had learned that adults meant pain. Trust had to be earned back slowly. Rachel shifted her gaze to look at the floor instead of directly at them. Direct eye contact felt threatening to frightened creatures. She kept humming the same melody over and over, something familiar and calm. 20 minutes passed. The largest baby took 1 step toward her, then stopped. Its siblings made small worried sounds behind it. Rachel did not react. She just kept humming. Another 10 minutes. Another step. The baby was now about 6 feet away, close enough that Rachel could see the details of its scales. They were beautiful even though they looked dull from stress. Deep blue with hints of silver at the edges. The baby tilted its head and made a sound. Not aggressive, curious. Rachel changed her humming to match the frequency of the sound. She had done this with animals before. Matching their vocalizations to show she was listening, the baby's eyes widened. It made the sound again. Rachel hummed it back. The baby sat down. That was progress. Sitting meant feeling safer. Rachel slowly reached into her pocket and pulled out a piece of dried meat she had brought from the transport ship. Human food. She had no idea if dragons could eat it, but that was not the point. She took a small bite herself, chewing slowly. Then she set the rest on the floor between them and went back to humming. The baby stared at the food. Its nose twitched. Smell was important to most species. 5 more minutes passed. Then the baby darted forward, grabbed the meat, and rushed back to its corner. It did not eat the meat. It dropped it in front of the smallest sibling. Rachel felt her heart squeeze. The baby was not hungry for itself. It was trying to save its sibling. She understood now. The smallest one was dying, and the other 2 knew it. They had been trying to protect their sibling while everyone kept forcing them to do things they did not understand. Rachel pulled out her medical scanner. Moving very slowly, she ran a scan on all 3 babies from a distance. The scanner was designed for humans, but biology was biology in many ways. The smallest baby showed signs of severe dehydration and low blood sugar. The other 2 were stressed but physically healthier. All 3 had elevated heart rates and stress hormones flooding their systems, but there was something else. The medical report from Dr. Oren had missed it because he was looking for diseases and injuries. He had not looked at the environmental factors. The temperature in the room was cold. Draconian adults preferred cooler temperatures, but babies, especially newborns, needed warmth. Their internal temperature regulation was not developed yet. The lighting was bright and harsh, probably to make observation easier. But newborns of most species preferred dim environments similar to the egg they had known. The floor was hard stone, easy to clean but uncomfortable for small bodies, and the room was completely silent except for the observers outside. No mother's heartbeat, no familiar sounds, just emptiness. Rachel made a decision. She stood up slowly and walked to the environmental controls on the wall. The babies hissed and pressed together, but they did not attack. She increased the temperature by 10 degrees. She dimmed the lights to almost darkness. Then she pulled off her jacket and laid it on the floor, creating a soft spot. The babies watched every movement with wide eyes. Rachel walked back to her original position and sat down again. But this time she laid down on her side, making herself even less threatening. She started humming again. In the darkness, she could barely see the babies. But she heard them, small shuffling sounds, whispers between them. Then she felt something. A tiny weight pressed against her back. The smallest baby had come to her. It was seeking warmth. Rachel did not move. She barely breathed. The baby curled against her spine, and she could feel how cold its scales were, how weak its breathing was. She began to hum a different song, something with a rhythm like a heartbeat. The baby's breathing started to slow, to deepen. More weight pressed against her. The medium-sized baby had joined them. Rachel remained still. Inside her mind, she was running through everything she knew about reptilian biology. Dragons were not exactly reptiles, but some principles were similar. Cold bodies needed warmth. Stressed animals needed calm. Babies needed connection. The largest baby was still in the corner. Rachel could hear it making uncertain sounds. "It is okay," she whispered. "I am not going to hurt them. I promise." The baby did not understand her words, but maybe it understood her tone. Several more minutes passed. Then the largest baby walked over and laid down in front of Rachel, facing her. Protecting its siblings one last time, but also accepting her presence. Rachel was now surrounded by 3 baby dragons in the dark. She began humming again, and gently, very gently, moved one hand to rest on the smallest baby's side. Its scales were cold. Too cold. She pulled it closer against her body. Human body temperature ran warmer than most species. She could share that warmth. The baby made a small sound and pressed closer. Rachel started to massage its stomach very lightly. She had done this with premature human babies. Sometimes their digestive systems needed help. Gentle circular motions to encourage everything to work properly. The baby's breathing changed, became more relaxed. Hours passed. Rachel's arm went numb. Her back ached. But she did not move. The smallest baby finally stirred. It raised its head and made a sound. A hungry sound. "Okay," Rachel whispered. "Okay, let us try this." She had noticed earlier that there was food in a bowl across the room. The same food the handlers had tried to force-feed the babies. Moving carefully so she would not disturb the other 2, Rachel crawled toward the bowl. The largest baby lifted its head to watch but did not stop her. She brought the food back and offered a small piece to the smallest baby. It sniffed the food, hesitated, then took a tiny bite. Rachel wanted to cheer. Instead, she stayed quiet and offered another piece. The baby ate 3 more bites before curling back against her. The medium baby woke up and also ate a little. The largest baby refused food but did drink some water. It was not perfect, but it was progress. Rachel gathered all 3 babies close to her body. They were too big for her to hold properly, but they arranged themselves around her like puzzle pieces. She kept humming as the temperature in the room finally reached a comfortable level. In the darkness, with warmth and soft sounds and gentle touch surrounding them, the baby dragons began to truly rest for the first time since hatching. Rachel stayed awake all night. Her job was not done. She monitored their breathing, offered food and water every hour, and kept them warm. As the sun began to rise and light crept under the door, she finally allowed herself to close her eyes. She woke to voices. The door opened and Emperor Valdrus entered, followed by half the palace staff. They stopped in the doorway, staring. Rachel was lying on the floor surrounded by 3 sleeping baby dragons. All 3 were breathing steadily. The smallest one had its head on her arm. The largest was pressed against her legs. The medium one was curled on her jacket. They looked peaceful, healthy, alive. "Impossible," Dr. Oren whispered. Valdrus walked forward slowly. He knelt beside his children and touched each one gently. They stirred but did not wake. He looked at Rachel with an expression she could not read. "What did you do?" he asked quietly. "I kept them warm," Rachel said. Her voice was hoarse from humming all night. "I made them feel safe. I treated them like babies instead of problems to solve. That is all?" "Sometimes that is everything." Valdrus stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He bowed his head to her. "You have saved my children, Rachel of humanity. The Empire is in your debt." The palace changed after that night. Rachel became the official caretaker of the Imperial babies, a title that made Highkeeper Soriel so angry he refused to speak to her for 3 days. She did not mind. She was too busy with the babies to care about politics. They named themselves on the 4th day after she arrived. The largest one, who Rachel privately called Big Brother, started making a specific sound whenever it wanted attention. Rin. The medium one responded to Kiva. And the smallest, who followed Rachel everywhere, became Pip. The babies grew stronger each day. They ate regularly. They played. They stopped attacking anyone who entered their chamber, though they still preferred Rachel above everyone else. Word spread through the palace and then through the Empire. The human had succeeded where everyone else had failed. Rachel tried to teach the palace staff her methods. She showed them how to approach the babies slowly, how to read their body language, how to give them choices instead of forcing them. Some staff members listened. Guard Captain Theron surprised her by being an excellent student. He learned to sit quietly with the babies and let them come to him. Soon Rin started following Theron around during his guard shifts. Others refused to learn. Soriel watched from a distance with cold eyes, and Dr. Oren continued to insist that Rachel's methods were unscientific and lucky. Ambassador Renna visited often. She watched Rachel work with genuine interest. "You make it look easy," Renna said one afternoon while Rachel was playing with Pip. "It is not easy. It is just different from what everyone here is used to." Rachel rolled a ball across the floor and Pip pounced on it with delight. Most species in the galaxy evolved as predators or developed technology early. Humans evolved as prey. We survived by understanding behavior and forming connections. We had to. We were too weak to survive any other way. So humans became good at caring for others because they had no other choice? Exactly. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We made friends with cats even though they did not need us. We keep animals in our homes that could kill us because we understand them. That understanding is our survival skill. Renna nodded slowly. "The Emperor is very grateful. He talks about you often." Rachel felt her face grow warm. "I am just doing my job. You are doing much more than that." That evening, Emperor Valdrus came to the chamber. He had been visiting every day, learning to interact with his children. The babies had been nervous around him at first. He was so big and powerful. But Rachel taught him the same techniques she used. Sit low, move slowly, let them approach. Use a soft voice. Now Kiva climbed onto his arm while Rin curled beside him. Pip still preferred Rachel, but even Pip would accept gentle touches from his father. "I never knew how to do this," Valdrus admitted as he carefully stroked Kiva's scales. "My own father was distant, cold. I thought that was how leadership worked." "Leadership and parenting are different things," Rachel said. "Are they? I have ruled for 3,000 years. I have made decisions that affected billions. But I could not figure out how to feed my own children." "You figured it out. You asked for help. That takes strength." Valdrus looked at her. "You are wise for one so young," Rachel laughed. "I am 32. For humans, that is not that young. You will age and die quickly by our standards. Humans live such short lives. We do. So we learn to make the most of the time we have. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Valdrus spoke again. I want you to train others, not just palace staff. People from across the Empire who work with animals. Your methods should be shared. I would be happy to, but some of your staff will not like it. They will obey. Rachel hesitated. Your Majesty, you cannot force people to be kind. It does not work that way. Then what do you suggest? Let me show them instead of telling them. Let them see how well the babies are doing. Some will learn because they want to. Others never will, and that is okay. Before Valdrus could respond, Dr. Oren entered the chamber. His many eyes looked agitated. Your Majesty, I must speak with you. Privately. Valdrus stood carefully, moving Kiva to the floor. This is about Rachel? Yes, Your Majesty. Then she should be present. Speak. Dr. Oren's mandibles clicked with displeasure. I have been researching the human's background. She has not been entirely honest with us. Rachel felt her stomach drop. 8 years ago, Rachel worked in a hospital on Earth. There was an incident. 3 patients died due to medication errors. She was held responsible. The room went silent. Even the baby seemed to sense the tension. Is this true? Valdrus asked, looking at Rachel. Rachel stood up. Her legs felt shaky, but she kept her voice steady. Yes, it is true. You killed patients? I made a mistake. I was exhausted from a double shift. I mixed up 2 medications. 3 patients died because of my error. Soriel entered behind Dr. Oren, looking triumphant. You see, I warned you about bringing in an incompetent human. She is dangerous. What happened after? Valdrus asked Rachel, ignoring Soriel. I was suspended, investigated, eventually cleared of criminal charges but fired from that hospital. I spent 2 years retraining, learning better systems, understanding what went wrong and how to make sure it never happened again. I moved to the frontier and started over. And you never thought to mention this? Would you have let me near your children if I had? Valdrus did not answer. I understand if you want me to leave, Rachel said quietly. I will teach someone else my methods before I go. The babies will be fine. Pip made a distressed sound and pressed against Rachel's leg. You see, Dr. Oren said. Even now she has made the hatchlings dependent on her. It is unhealthy. They are babies, Rachel snapped, her patience finally breaking. Babies form attachments. That is normal and healthy. What is unhealthy is treating them like machines to be programmed. How dare you, Soriel began. Enough, Valdrus said. His voice carried such authority that everyone stopped talking immediately. He looked at Rachel for a long moment. She met his gaze, not backing down. You made a mistake that cost lives, he said, yes. And you lived with that guilt. Every day. And you learned from it. I had to. I could not let it happen again. Valdrus nodded slowly. I have made mistakes too. Decisions that led to deaths, wars that perhaps could have been avoided. I am thousands of years old and I still make mistakes. He turned to Dr. Oren and Soriel. The difference is whether we learn from them or repeat them. Your Majesty, you cannot possibly. Soriel protested. Rachel stays. She will continue as caretaker and will train others in her methods. This is my command. Dr. Oren's eyes glittered with anger. You are making a mistake, Your Majesty. Perhaps. But it is my mistake to make. After they left, Rachel sat down hard on the floor. Her hands were shaking. Pip immediately climbed into her lap and Kiva pressed against her side. Thank you, she whispered to Valdrus. Do not thank me yet. They will not stop. Soriel is humiliated that a human succeeded where he failed. Dr. Oren believes only in what he can measure. They will look for any excuse to remove you. I know. Can you handle that? Rachel looked down at Pip, who was making small, comfortable sounds. For them? Yes. Valdrus reached out and touched her shoulder gently. You have a strong heart, Rachel. Your species may be short-lived and physically weak, but you have something many others lack. What is that? The courage to care even when it is difficult. That night, Rachel lay with the 3 babies curled around her as usual. But she could not sleep. She kept thinking about Dr. Oren's words, about the mistakes she had made, about the patients she had lost. She had spent 8 years trying to make up for those deaths. 8 years working twice as hard, being twice as careful, never allowing herself to forget. And now people knew. The worst thing she had ever done was out in the open. Pip stirred and made a questioning sound. "I am okay," Rachel whispered, stroking his scales, just thinking. But she wondered how long okay would last. 3 weeks after Rachel's past was revealed, the tension in the palace reached a breaking point. The babies were thriving. Rin had grown 6 inches and was learning to fly short distances. Kiva had started speaking actual words in the draconian language. Pip, though still the smallest, was healthy and energetic. By every measure, Rachel's care was working perfectly, but that only made Soriel angrier. He began spreading rumors. The human was using some kind of mind control. The babies were not really healthy, just drugged into compliance. Rachel had secret technology that she was hiding. The stories grew more ridiculous each day, but some people believed them. Dr. Oren took a different approach. He documented every small thing that went wrong. A baby sneezed. Clearly, Rachel's methods were causing respiratory problems. Pip refused vegetables one morning. Obviously malnutrition. He was building a case piece by piece. Rachel tried to ignore it all and focus on her job, but she could feel the pressure building. Ambassador Rena warned her during a visit. "Be careful. Soriel is planning something. He has been meeting with other officials, people who were loyal to the old ways. What can he do? The Emperor supports me. The Emperor is busy ruling an empire. He cannot watch you every moment. And accidents happen in palaces." Rachel did not like the sound of that. That evening, something changed. Rachel was playing with the babies when suddenly all 3 stopped and looked toward the door. Their body language shifted to alert. A moment later, Guard Captain Theron entered. He looked troubled. "Rachel, I need to speak with you." "What is wrong?" "There is a formal challenge being raised against you. In the Imperial Court. Tomorrow morning." Rachel felt cold. "What kind of challenge?" "Soriel has gathered enough support to demand a public evaluation of your competence. He claims you are unfit to care for the Imperial children due to your past negligence and lack of proper training. But the babies are healthy. Anyone can see that. He will argue that their health is temporary, that your methods are harmful in ways we cannot see yet, that you are a danger." Theron hesitated. "And he has one more thing. He found someone who will testify that you made similar mistakes at other medical facilities." "That is a lie." "I know. But if they testify before the court, the Emperor will have to investigate. You will be removed from the babies during the investigation. And without you," Rachel understood. The babies had bonded to her. Being suddenly separated would traumatize them. They might stop eating again. Especially Pip, who was still fragile. "How long will the investigation take?" "Weeks, maybe months." Rachel looked at the 3 babies. They were watching her with intelligent eyes. They did not understand the words, but they sensed her distress. "I will not let them be hurt," she said quietly. "Then you need to defend yourself tomorrow." In front of the entire court, Rachel did not sleep that night. She sat with the babies and tried to think of what to say. How to explain that caring was not a weakness, that love was not unscientific, that sometimes the best medicine was just being there. But how did you explain that to people who saw emotions as flaws? Morning came too quickly. Rachel dressed in the formal clothes Rena had brought her. She left the babies in the care of Theron, who was one of the few people they trusted after her. The court chamber was enormous. Hundreds of officials sat in tiered seats that rose toward the ceiling. At the front, Emperor Valdrus sat on a throne that made him look even larger than usual. Rachel walked to the center of the floor, feeling very small. Soriel stood opposite her with Dr. Oren beside him. Both looked confident. "We are gathered to determine the fitness of the human Rachel to serve as caretaker for the Imperial children," an official announced. "Highkeeper Soriel, present your case." Soriel stepped forward. "Your Majesty, honored court, I present evidence that this human is dangerous and incompetent." He began showing records. Images of the patients who had died 8 years ago. Their families crying. Rachel's trial. He made it sound like she had killed people on purpose. She was fired for negligence, banned from working in advanced facilities. Yet we have placed our most precious children in her care. Murmurs ran through the court. Then he showed medical scans of the babies. These scans show abnormalities in their neural development. The human's constant physical contact is altering their brain chemistry. She is making them dependent on her presence. Dr. Oren stepped forward. "I have analyzed these changes. While the hatchlings appear healthy now, This dependency will cause severe problems as they mature. They will be unable to function without human contact. The damage may already be permanent. Rachel felt panic rising. She was not a neuroscientist. She could not refute technical scans. Furthermore, Soriel continued, we have a witness, someone who worked with Rachel at another facility and saw her make similar dangerous choices. A figure stepped forward from the crowd. Rachel did not recognize them. State your name and credentials, the official said. Dr. Henris. I worked with Rachel at a medical station 2 years ago. I witnessed her violate multiple safety protocols. She was reckless and emotional, putting her feelings above proper procedure. That is not true, Rachel said. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. You deny violating protocols? Dr. Henris asked. There was one time I broke quarantine procedure to comfort a dying patient who was alone. You broke quarantine. You admitted it. The patient was in pain and scared. Quarantine was for a low-risk pathogen. I made a choice to endanger others for sentimental reasons, Soriel finished. You see? She prioritizes emotion over safety, over science, over logic, the court muttered louder. Rachel could see she was losing them. Rachel, Emperor Valdrus said. His voice silenced everyone. Defend yourself. Rachel looked up at him. Then at all the faces watching her. Hundreds of beings who thought humans were primitive and weak. She took a deep breath. You are right, she said. I am emotional. I do prioritize feelings, because feelings matter. Feelings are subjective and unreliable, Dr. Oren said. Feelings are information. When a baby cries, that is information. When they curl up in fear, that is information. When they relax and play, that is information. I watch the babies and I listen to what they are telling me through their behavior. Unscientific nonsense. Soriel scoffed. Is it? Your scientific approach was letting them die. My nonsense saved them. The court reacted to that, some with anger, others with surprise at her boldness. The neural changes you mentioned, Rachel continued, looking at Dr. Oren. Show me the scans. He projected them into the air, complex images of the baby's brains. Rachel studied them. She was not an expert, but she knew enough. These areas that are lighting up, those are the regions associated with bonding and emotional regulation. They are not abnormalities. They are the babies learning to form healthy attachments. Which makes them dependent, Dr. Oren argued. Which makes them capable of trust, of love, of social connections. You call it dependency. I call it learning to be part of a family. Dragons do not need family, Soriel said coldly. They are solitary apex predators. Adult dragons may be solitary, but these are not adults. They are children. And every intelligent species, no matter how powerful, needs connection when they are young. You cannot prove that, Dr. Oren said. I can prove that your way was killing them and my way is helping them thrive. Isn't that proof enough? The court fell silent. Then Emperor Valdrus spoke. What about the testimony that you are reckless? Rachel looked at the Emperor. I made a mistake 8 years ago. A terrible mistake. 3 people died because I was careless when I was tired. I will carry that guilt forever. She paused. But I learned from it. I spent 2 years studying what went wrong, understanding fatigue management and safety systems. I became better because I failed. And breaking quarantine? Valdrus asked. I broke a minor protocol to provide comfort to someone who was dying alone. If that is reckless, then yes, I am reckless, because I believe dying in pain and fear is worse than a small risk. You put yourself above the rules, Soriel said. I put compassion above convenience. Before anyone could respond, a commotion started at the chamber doors. Guard Captain Theron burst in looking alarmed. Your Majesty. The babies, he did not get to finish. 3 small dragons flew into the chamber, their wings beating frantically. Rin, Kiva, and Pip had escaped somehow and tracked Rachel's scent. They landed in the center of the floor, right beside Rachel, and immediately huddled around her. Pip was making distressed sounds. All 3 were clearly agitated. They would not eat, Theron explained, breathless. The moment you left, they stopped eating. They have been crying since dawn. The entire court watched as Rachel knelt and gathered the babies close. I am here, I am okay. You are okay. Her voice was soft, gentle. She stroked their scales and hummed quietly. Within seconds, all 3 babies calmed. They pressed against her, making content sounds. The court saw it all. The immediate change, the trust, The Bond Emperor Valdrus stood from his throne and walked down to the floor. He knelt beside his children and looked at them carefully. Then he looked at Rachel. "These neural changes," he said. "Dr. Oren claims they are harmful. They are normal development, Your Majesty. Human babies show the same patterns when they bond with their parents. So my children see you as their parent?" Rachel hesitated. "I think they see me as someone who keeps them safe. They still recognize you as their father, but yes, they have bonded to me." Valdrus was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to address the court. "This human made mistakes in her past. She has been honest about them. She learned from them. She came to this palace when we were desperate and succeeded where all of us failed." He paused, not because she is smarter or stronger, but because she understood something we did not. "What is that, Your Majesty?" someone asked. "That power without compassion is just cruelty. That science without empathy misses the most important data, that my children needed someone to love them, not just manage them." He looked at Soriel and Dr. Oren. "Your methods were failing. Hers succeeded. The evidence is right here." As he spoke, Pip had climbed into Rachel's arms and was falling asleep. The smallest baby, who had nearly died, was now healthy enough to feel safe enough to sleep in a room full of strangers. "Rachel will continue as caretaker," Valdrus declared. "This court is dismissed." As the officials filed out, many looking displeased, Rachel held the 3 babies and tried not to cry. She had won. For now. 2 months after the court case, Rachel thought things had finally settled down. She was wrong. The alarm woke her in the middle of the night. Not the gentle palace bells that marked the hours, but the harsh emergency sirens that meant danger. Rachel sat up fast. The 3 babies were already awake, their heads raised and alert. They had grown so much. Rin was nearly as tall as Rachel now. Kiva's scales had started developing their adult iridescence. Even Pip, though still the smallest, was strong and healthy. Guard Captain Theron burst through the door. "We are under attack. Raiders from the outer systems. They have breached the palace defenses." "How is that possible?" Rachel asked, already moving to gather the babies. "Inside help. Someone disabled the security protocols." Theron's expression was grim. "They are heading for this chamber. They want the Imperial children." Rachel felt ice in her stomach. "Soriel. We do not know for certain, but yes, we suspect him. He disappeared an hour ago." Theron moved to the doorway. "I have 12 guards outside. We will hold them as long as we can. You need to take the babies and run. There is an escape tunnel behind the north wall. What about you?" "I am doing my job, go." Rachel wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. She turned to the babies. "We have to leave. Stay close to me." They understood the urgency in her voice. Rin pressed against her side. Kiva and Pip flanked her other side. Rachel ran to the north wall and pressed the hidden panel. The wall slid open, revealing a dark tunnel. She had been shown this escape route when she first arrived, but had never expected to use it. From behind them came the sound of weapons fire. Shouting. The guards were fighting. "Go. Go, go!" Rachel urged the babies into the tunnel. They moved through darkness. Rachel used the small light on her wristcom to see. The tunnel was narrow and sloped downward. She could hear the baby's claws scraping on stone behind her. Then she heard something worse, footsteps behind them. "Getting closer. Faster," she whispered. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber. Rachel's light swept across the space, looking for another exit. There were 3 doorways leading in different directions. She picked the one that seemed to lead away from the palace and ran. Behind them, lights appeared. Whoever was chasing them had entered the chamber. "There. I see them," a voice shouted. Rachel pushed herself to run faster, but the babies were tired. Pip was starting to fall behind. Rin turned back, refusing to leave his smallest sibling. They were not going to make it. Rachel made a decision. She stopped running and turned to face their pursuers. 6 raiders entered the tunnel. They wore dark armor and carried weapons designed to stun, not kill. They wanted the babies alive. "Stand aside, human," the leader said. "This is not your concern. Everything about these babies is my concern. We do not want to hurt you. Just move." Rachel spread her arms wide, blocking the tunnel. Behind her, the 3 babies huddled together. They could have run without her. They could have fought. But they stayed because they trusted her to protect them. "You will have to go through me," Rachel said. The leader sighed. "So be it," he raised his weapon. Rachel closed her eyes, waiting for the stun blast. It never came. Instead, she heard a roar that shook the entire tunnel. A roar so loud and so full of rage that the raiders stumbled backward. Emperor Valdrus landed between Rachel and the raiders. He must have been tracking them through the palace systems. His wings filled the tunnel. His claws scraped sparks from the stone floor. "You dare attack my children?" His voice was death itself. The raiders fired their weapons at him. The stun blast bounced off his scales harmlessly. Valdrus moved forward and the raiders ran. They did not get far. More guards appeared behind them, led by Theron. The raiders were surrounded. Valdrus turned to Rachel. His eyes glowed with fury, but his voice gentled. "Are they hurt?" "No, Your Majesty. They are scared but unhurt." The Emperor looked at his children. All three were pressed against Rachel, seeking her protection even though their father stood right there. Something in his expression changed. Softened. "You stood between them and danger. You could have run. I could not leave them. You are not strong enough to fight raiders. You are not fast enough to outrun them. You had no weapons. What did you think would happen?" Rachel smiled tiredly. "I thought I would buy them a few more seconds. Sometimes that is all you can do." Valdrus studied her for a long moment. Then he knelt down, making himself smaller. "My children, come here." The babies hesitated. Then Rin walked to his father first. Kiva followed. Pip looked at Rachel for permission. She nodded. Valdrus gathered his children close, wrapping his wings around them. It was the first time Rachel had seen him embrace them like a real parent. "I have been a poor father," he said quietly. "I know how to be an emperor, but Rachel had to teach me how to be a parent." The guards took the raiders away. Theron reported that Soriel had indeed been found communicating with the raiders. He had been feeding them information about the palace defenses and the babies' routines. He was in custody now, awaiting trial. "He hated me that much?" Rachel asked as they walked back through the palace. "He hated what you represented," Valdrus said. "Change. The idea that old ways might be wrong. That he might have been wrong. I was just trying to help." "You did more than help. You changed the entire empire." Rachel did not understand what he meant until the next morning. The palace was full of visitors. Beings from dozens of different species, all waiting to meet her. They had all heard about the human who saved the imperial children. Now they wanted to learn her methods. There was a mother whose child would not stop crying. An animal handler whose creatures had become violent. A doctor whose patients were not healing despite perfect medical care. All of them had tried everything. All of them had failed. All of them were now asking a human for help. Rachel looked at Ambassador Rena, who was organizing the crowd. "What is happening?" "You are happening," Rena said with a smile. "You showed the galaxy something it had forgotten. That sometimes the solution is not more technology or more force. Sometimes it is just kindness." Over the next weeks, Rachel began training others. She taught them to observe before acting, to listen to what behavior was communicating, to recognize that emotions were not weaknesses but important information. Some of her students were good at it naturally. Others struggled to unlearn their old approaches. But slowly, change began spreading. The babies continued to grow. Rin started flying long distances and protecting his siblings with fierce determination. Kiva learned to speak in multiple languages and loved asking questions. Pip developed a talent for sensing emotions and would comfort anyone who seemed sad. One evening, Rachel sat with Emperor Valdrus in the palace gardens. The babies were playing nearby, practicing their flying. "I have been thinking about what you said during the trial," Valdrus said, "about compassion and power." "Yes, Your Majesty. I built this empire with strength, with conquest. I thought that was the only way to rule. But watching you with my children, I realized something." He paused. "Strength without compassion does not create loyalty. It creates fear, and fear breaks eventually." "Are you saying the mighty emperor is going soft?" Rachel teased gently. Valdrus laughed. It was a sound Rachel had never heard from him before. "Perhaps, or perhaps I am finally learning to be wise instead of just powerful." Pip flew over and landed in Rachel's lap. Despite being much larger now, the young dragon still thought of himself as small enough to sit on her. "You have changed us, Rachel," Valdrus said, watching his smallest child curl up against the human. "Not just my children. All of us. I just did what I was trained to do. Care for those who need it. That is exactly what I mean. The galaxy has thousands of years of technology. Weapons that can destroy planets. Ships that cross the stars. But we forgot the simplest things. How to listen. How to comfort. How to be gentle. He looked at her seriously. Your species lives such short lives. You will age and die while we are still in our prime. But what you teach will last. The Empire will remember the human who saved the Imperial children by being kind. Rachel felt tears in her eyes. I hope so. I hope it makes a difference. It already has. Months turned into a year. The babies were no longer babies. They were young dragons, intelligent and capable. They still loved Rachel, but they did not need her constant care anymore. She began spending more time teaching others. Her methods spread to other worlds. Hospitals started using her approaches. Animal handlers adopted her techniques. Even military trainers started incorporating her ideas about trust and bonding. The galaxy was changing, slowly, but changing. One day, Guard Captain Theron found Rachel in the library. There is someone here to see you. Rachel looked up from her reading. Who? Come and see. She followed him to the main hall. A group of humans stood there looking nervous and excited. They wore the uniforms of Earth's medical services. Rachel, one of them said, we came to learn from you. Earth wants to establish an official exchange program. Human nurses and caretakers will train with you and then return home to teach others. Rachel felt her heart swell. Her species, her people, were being recognized not as primitive or weak, but as having something valuable to offer. I would be honored, she said. That evening, Rachel sat with Rin, Kiva, and Pip in their usual spot. They were too big now to cuddle like they used to, but Pip still rested his head on her shoulder. You know I will not always be here, Rachel said quietly. Humans do not live as long as dragons. Rin made a sad sound. But what I taught you will stay. You will remember, and you will teach others. Teach what? Kiva asked. Her voice was beautiful like music. That being strong does not mean being hard. That power is best used to protect, not to dominate. That the most important thing any being can do is care for those who need it. You taught us that, Pip said softly. I showed you. But you learned it. And that makes all the difference. They sat together as the sun set over the Imperial Palace, casting everything in gold light. Rachel was just one human on one planet in a galaxy of billions. But she had changed things, not through strength or technology or force, through kindness, through empathy, through the simple act of caring. Emperor Valdrus watched from his balcony. Beside him stood ambassadors from a dozen worlds, all waiting to discuss the new programs inspired by the human methods. They call her the heart of the Empire now, one ambassador said. Valdrus nodded. She would probably hate that title. She always said she was just doing her job. But she changed everything. Yes, Valdrus agreed, watching Rachel with his children. She did. And across the galaxy, a new saying began to spread. When people faced problems that seemed impossible, when strength and intelligence failed, they would say, send for a human. They know how to care. It was not the reputation humanity had expected to earn among the stars. They had always thought they would be known for their technology or their ambition or their ability to survive. Instead, they became known for something more powerful, something that would echo through the centuries long after Rachel's short life ended. They became known for their hearts, and in a cold, vast galaxy full of power and conquest that changed everything.